All right. What we're talking about, like I said, is we're going to talk about this softer skills around software development. So we're going to be concentrating most of the semester on the hard skills, the actual coding. Can you do loops? Can you do functions? That sort of thing. These are the things. There's some more housekeeping sort of ideas that you need to keep aware of when you're programming. Mainly because you're not the only one that's going to be looking at your code. I mean, if you do this for a job, unless you work for you do it for yourself at home and you never share your code with anyone, someone is always going to be looking at your code. Someone else, it might be a couple of years down the track, it might be the next day. Particularly for you guys, for the assignments, I'm going to be looking at your code, so I need to be able to read it. And you do want me being able to read your code better, because if I have to spend time trying to work out what your code's doing, it means I'm more frustrated reading your code. You do not want someone frustrated marking your assignments. Okay? Think about it in a selfish way for you guys. You want me happy when I'm reading your code.
Meaning give you candy?
Sorry?
Give you candy with the assignment?
Candy, no.
Lollies.
No. No.
You do mine first, so you get annoyed, so then you're just in a general bad mood when you mark everyone else's assignment.
I'm generally in a bad mood when I'm marking assignments.
Because you're marking assignments.
Yeah. I'm generally in a bad mood, you know. It's
Or when you see you.
yeah, anyway. You could do Firefly references if you want to, but yeah. Anyway, alright. The three things we're going to be looking at.
Why do you get Firefly references wrong?
The three things we're going to be looking at in this presentation. Naming conventions. So looking at how to name things. We've already sort of touched on this a bit. I wanted to give you a bit more of an example. Comments. So you're going to write things in plain English in your code. And indentation. Now, something I pointed out in the other class as well was initially we're going to do Java and Python this semester. Because of the problems we've got with Eclipse on this system at the moment, I've sort of had to put off Python a bit, which I'm not happy about. But I just want to get programming happening. So I'd rather you guys start in Java and we can add Python later. So maybe next term we'll look at Python. Indentation is important for that because Java doesn't care about indentation. Python, you have to indent your code. Like we looked at, Java has a lot of open and closed brackets, the curly brackets. Python doesn't use that. It uses indentation instead. So yeah, so Java, we need to know about it. Python, you have to know about it. You have to do it. All right. Very important tip. Always write your code, assuming a maniac serial killer is going to hunt you down because they don't like your code. Or me, because I know where you live. All of you. You're in the system here. Actually, I can tell you where one student lives right now.
It's just creepy. Did you write that?
Sorry? No, I didn't write that. But I've got your address.
Something like this.
And your mobile number. And a whole bunch of other things.
You've actually got me up. What the
I was looking at your account before for the account problems. It was still there.
Get rid of it.
It was still there, so you know. Anyway, I'm not saying I'm going to hunt you down and kill you.
Yes.
Not at all.
That's good.
It'd be too obvious if I did that. Anyway,
Josh.
I'll just give you bad marks. No, but it's just a funny picture I found. That's all. All right, naming conventions. Something really, really important. We've talked about it slightly before. This apparently is how you spell Erica.
What?
Erica McBride.
Is that a chick? Maybe. From this angle. I'm not sure. I don't know. Do men wear photos?
Keep digging that hole.
Sometimes.
Yes. Do you want a shovel to help dig that hole a bit more?
Nah,
Anyway, so naming conventions. Like these things, it's not Java's not going to like your program will still compile if you don't follow any of these things that we're talking about today. Your program will still compile. It will still run. It won't introduce logic errors. These are just good habits to get into the practice of doing. Okay, naming convention. We've talked about camel case and lower case, lower camel case, upper camel case. Camel case is something that Java sort of suggests. We'll look at that in a minute. There's also Pascal case and Hungarian notation. Hungarian notation is also an important one because when you're looking at Screen design, when you're looking at buttons on screen like Android or iOS, you're looking at buttons or looking at other things. Buttons are sort of an easy one to think of. It's good to try and put the type of object in the variable name. So like here we've got int user salary, it's saying it's an integer, and string password saying it's a string. So if it was a button on screen, it'd be btn submit or something like that. So it's giving an indication in the variable what type of what data type it is or what object it is. So that one's also useful. There are many more than this. These three are only just three sort of main ones, but they're not. It's not by any means exhaustive at all. So yeah, just wanted to give you an idea. Camel case is the one, like I said, Java sort of suggests a lot. And there's upper and there's lower camel case. And the main difference is that first letter. So the first letter in upper camel case is uppercase. So Darth Vader. But lower camel case is, the first letter is lowercase, but every subsequent word is uppercase. Or the first letter is anyway. So that's the main difference about it. And it sounds really weird, but it's to choose between the two, like what you have to do. But it's just the conventions that the programming languages choose when they get invented to make it quicker and easier to read. So someone who knows Java code can pick up anyone's Java code that follows the conventions and pick out a variable name, or they pick out a word and they can work out very quickly if it's a variable or if it's a function or if it's a button or these sorts of things. So you don't have, there's a lot less guesswork or having to read a lot of code to work out what something is. So that's why these things are sort of created this way. So just the next couple of slides are sort of looking at the conventions that the programming languages have chosen for themselves. So Python for variables and methods, they suggest it's lowercase separated by underscores, so user input of multiply values, sorry. And that's the names that they suggest, or the conventions they suggest for those two things. But you don't have to follow it. You can use upper camel case or lower camel case if you want to. It's just what Python suggests. And for classes and constants, they suggest upper camel case and uppercase separated by underscores. So it doesn't make any difference. It's not going to make or break your code. It's just a convention to follow. Okay? You know. Java, very similar. Like going back to this, variables and methods, lowercase separated by underscores, whereas Java suggests lower camel case for both variables and methods. Again, nothing too exciting there. And upper camel case and separate. So underscore, constants are the same for Python and Java. Now, next one is C++. Pretty much the same as Java, except for methods, they suggest you use verbs to suggest it's an action. So like fire phases rather than just, I don't know what you can say. Like engage phase, no, I don't know. Or just say phases. Rather than just saying phases, you say fire phases. So it's an action.
Star Trek theme, so.
It is a Star Trek. This slide is a Star Trek theme. Because you know, Star Trek, the whole enterprise computer is based in C++, as you would know, obviously.
Probably not.
I don't know. I just made that up. Objective-C. It's another C-based language. They've got different rules or different conventions that they follow. And for the classes and constant, they suggest putting this class prefix on the front. But you don't have to worry about it unless you're doing Objective-C. C#, very similar as well, except they, like constants they use, don't have all uppercase. So look, as I said, it won't make or break your code. It's just a convention to get into the habit of using. So yeah. Anyway, we're going to look at, first of all, some bad variable naming. This is not what you're supposed to do. So I'm going to give you 5 seconds to try and tell me what this code does. I lost count already. Let's say that's 5 seconds. No one got it. Okay, that's fine. What I wanted to demonstrate was the fact that these variables are badly named. What are some variables that it is named in here?
Reynolds. Or Reynolds.
Reynolds, yeah.
Malcolm.
Malcolm. Kick ass. Now, it goes in there, there's a do while loop, which we haven't learned yet, but don't worry about that. But it's saying Malcolm equals kick ass plus next int. Now, we know next int, we've used that with scanner, so you can go, okay, well, kick ass is obviously the equivalent of user input. What's Malcolm equals, Reynolds equals Reynolds plus Malcolm, what does that mean? It doesn't make any sense to me. I know what this code does, but the variables are badly named. Okay, now this is obviously cartoonishly badly named because I've chosen a Firefly reference. But what I want to show you compared it to the good variable naming version, which is user input, total, and input. So what it does is this program reads in a value from the user, adds it to a total, so it keeps a running total, and then it outputs that total. And that's all it does, but using a variable named total is a lot more obvious than Reynolds. Hopefully. So anyway, look, excuse me, slowly dying. Okay, so I just wanted to give you an idea of names of when you name variables, make sure you name them based on what you're storing in them. Okay, it makes code a lot easier to read. I would avoid using like 2-letter acronyms. I've seen people just like for the scanner input, just put IN, like just in. That's not great because, you know, in could be a lot of different things. So it could be an acronym, it could be input, it could be a lot of different things. So try and be as detailed as possible. You don't need a 30-character variable name, but also don't have it as a 2-character variable name or a 1-character variable name. No, I've seen his code and it makes me shudder.
Yeah,
every year I've taught this unit, and it's been for the last 6 years I've been teaching this unit, there's always one student who does things their own way. They're very good programmers, they do things their own way, and it always boggles me to try and work out their code because they do it in a way that I don't expect.
MMSP always confused me with his code. Still don't know what that
What is
means.
it? MS. What?
MMSP. Something to do with the multiplayer engine.
I've got no idea. Yeah. Anyway,
Yes.
try and be as detailed as possible in your variable names, particularly because if you're trying to read your code, you want to know what those things mean, like user input. Okay, I don't have to think too much about that, but I know it's got something to do with the user inputting some data. If you want to know more details, you can find them out, but it gives you an idea very quickly when you're reading it. You're not writing code just for yourself, which is the problem with naming variables like MMSP. You're naming it for yourself, not for other people. And you're writing code for other people, generally. It sounds kind of strange. You're writing code for yourself and you're compiling it into an executable. You actually have to write the code for other people to read. Anyway, comments. Comments are another thing that we do in programming. It's for again, it's for humans to read. The compiler ignores comments, and it's so you can quickly sort of break up your code, and so other people reading it can quickly understand what each section does, because you read it in English rather than things. Some of the code we write now is pretty simple and it's pretty easy to understand, but as we get more and more complex code, you do want to have comments in there as much as possible. And someone asked in the last class, can you have too many comments? I don't think you can unless you start writing paragraphs and paragraphs of things. But you know, you should have a lot of comments in your code. And it's also good for you, not just for other people, but it's good for you because there's been times in the past where I've opened up my code from I'd written the day before or the week before or the month before or whatever, and I've looked at it, I've tried to work out what the hell I was doing. I don't remember writing the code, and I was like, how did I try and solve this problem? I've done it in a really weird way, or I don't understand what the code does. So you write comments. Comments are really, really good. The other thing is, and it's something I haven't put in here, is a code header. At the start of every file you write, there should be a block of comments at the top that just says, like, who wrote it, you put your name in there, and what the code does. So you can open up the file and instantly see what the code does without looking below at your actual code. So, yeah, something like that is really good. Here's bad commenting, as in there's none. No comments in the code. Does anyone know what this code does? There's no time limit on this one. It's not a test. Have a look, see if you can work out what the code does.
Basically tells you you don't good.
No.
You done good. You.
No. Nope. I just realised there's a problem with that. First value twice, yeah. Anyway, that doesn't affect the actual code. The code will still run and it will still do what it's supposed to do. It's just an interface problem. Have a look at the, what is it, about the 10th line of code maybe?
Dividend plus.
It takes in a dividend, and it takes in an advisor, and it figures out the quotient from.
Which, in English, what does that mean? You're right, but what does that in English mean?
Does mathy things.
Does mathy things, yes. Let's, explain it to someone who's not a 4-year-old. But yeah, you are right, it does mathy things. What mathy things does it do? I think someone said it over here. Think someone said it?
I think so.
Did you work it out? That is the line of code.
It divides the dividend by the divisor.
It divides. It divides one number by another number. That's all it does.
If you don't put in a value, it tells you down good.
Well, look, that code, all it does is gets two values and divides them. Okay, and the important line is this one here. That one there. That's all. It's all set up to do the dividing, and then it outputs the maths question you're dealing with. This is a good point because without comments, it's hard to work out. Now, I know what this does, and someone who can program in Java would know what these catch statements do, where it says you done goofed. But I can't remember what the difference between an arithmetic exception, a number format exception, or, well, I know what exception is, but I don't know what the difference between these two exceptions are. And I remember in Java, exception is error. That's sort of a general rule. I don't know what the difference is between those two. So putting them there and just saying you done goofed is not really ideal because, you're not... If I want to try and remember what the difference is, I might have to do research and find out what the difference is. But if I put comments in and say, this catches an error when the user attempts to divide by 0, I go, okay, I know what happens when the user divides by 0. That's the arithmetic exception error. And if they enter a value that's not an integer, if they enter their name for some reason, that would be a number format exception. So you put those comments in there so it's easier to read. You don't have to do any research to find out what those complex things are. That's not obvious, like dividing a number or adding a number or anything like that. So yeah, and then this catches all other errors. So I don't need to know the inner workings of arithmetic or number format exception to know, looking at that code instantly, what each of them do, does, what they do. So yeah, that's what comments are for. Just so it's easy, very quickly you can scan it with your eyes and work out what each block of code does. Indentation. I'm starting to fade. Indentation, as I said, is really important in Python. You have to indent your code. Java, you don't have to, but it makes it so much easier to read.
What the?
It makes it so much easier to read. It really does. It does. I'm telling you, it does. This shouldn't be so mind-boggling that you have to go, what the f...
No. My computer's typed in like 6666666 into Google, and the first thing that pops up is like pictures of ladies.
I'm sure your computer typed it in.
Yeah, my computer typed it in. Yeah.
I probably didn't do it well.
Oh look, it just popped up on screen. What I can't control it. It popped up on screen.
It's like legit. Oh. This is weird. Also for.
Anyway, Eclipse has this function built in where it can format your code for you. So please, for the love of all things that are holy, or whatever you happen to or may not happen to believe in, for everything, please format your code before you submit it. It's really easy. It does it for you. I've told students this in the past, and they still submit code that's really hard to read. It's not formatted properly, and it might be worth 5 marks out of 100. But all you have to do is hit Control-Shift-F, and your code automatically formats it. Yes.
What happens if you're normal like me and use a Windows computer at home?
It'll be Control-Shift-F, I think. I can show you. It does tell you. You can right click on the file and choose source format, and it'll tell you what the thing is. But anyway, here's an example of bad formatting. This program will still compile and run. Nothing wrong with it. Syntactically, it's perfect. I'll take a step back. It may not be perfect. I can't remember, but there's no errors. It runs fine. There's two methods in here. One called arrays. One called arrays2, and they do different things. I don't know what they do. They do different things, but they're really hard to read. Like these 4 brackets at the bottom here. I don't know which ones, where they belong to. What it's really hard to sort of quickly see what this code.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You should go take some antibiotics on there.
Do you have any?
Do you want to end this
No.
class early? And
No.
go do that?
No. I'll power through. It's okay. I've done this before.
So,
I know. That's okay. I will slowly die before I let you out early. Don't worry. I will take one for the team, and I will put myself in harm's way to make sure you stay here until the proper time to leave. I'll make that sacrifice for you guys.
There's moving cars up front. It's always an option.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. This is bad formatting. Bad formatting. Good formatting. This is good formatting.
That makes sense.
Yes, it does.
This is straight after you hit Control or Command Shift F. Okay? It's the same code, exactly the same code, but
It looks a lot nicer.
it looks a lot nicer, and I can see instantly that this bracket here matches up with that F, the 4. I can see it's there, and if I look at the end of this line, I can see the bracket there. So you can see where these brackets line up to, and more importantly, I can see which code belongs inside the if statement and which belongs inside the for statement. When you've got lots more code, it's a lot harder to see that sort of thing. So formatting, very important, very easy to read. Again, this program and this program will still compile, will still run exactly the same. I didn't change any code. I just formatted it. But it makes it a lot easier to read, and it doesn't take that long, and it's just really important. And Python, you have to do it. You have to, like this, if this was Python, this code would not compile. It would not work at all. You'd have lots of errors. This would more likely work, except it's Java syntax, not Python. But anyway, let's assume it was Python syntax. This would work.
Push me
Yes. Towards himself.
away.
Does he still have those skills up?
No, I pressed Alt F4.
Anyway, so 3 main things I want you to take away from this. Write comments, format code, and name your variables properly, according to some standard. But by the way I say some standard, I mean my standard, because I'm going to be marking your code. And if you get a job doing software development, you have to conform to whatever the company's formatting, naming convention, everything like that.
Friend that had to learn a new programming language in a day.
Yeah, well, over the weekend, but yeah. You had to learn Java over the weekend. Anyway, he's a massive nerd though. Did I teach him? No. No. He told me that on the Monday. He was also the guy that, I think it was the same guy, I can't remember.
Coded Minecraft.
No. What? There was a software release set for the Friday or whatever, and it wasn't ready yet. So he did it. He pulled an all-nighter on the Thursday night, and one of his method names, because before they released it, they looked at his code. It did work, but they checked his code beforehand, and one of the method names was called "I don't know why this works, but it effing does," and that was the method name, along those lines. And so in another bit of code, he actually had to write, I don't know why this effing... Yeah, so they had to rename it later. But it did work. But it was he said he wrote it about 4 a.m. and he was hallucinating and stuff like that. But it did work. Yeah.
True programmer that.
Yeah. He probably had a lot of caffeine as well at the time. So anyway, there are the 3 things. Name your variables properly, format your code, and indent. Comment. What did I say? Yes, comment. Comment, format, name your variables properly. 3 things. Again, they're soft skills. They won't make or break your code, but they're very important for other people reading your code. Now, what I want you to do now is, in the last 20 minutes, I want you to write a program that accepts 2 numbers and works out the average. Really easy.
Python or?
Then I want you to expand it, or just add in to that same program, the ability to work out the average of 3 numbers. And then I want you to work out how to do the maximum and the minimum. Now, Raptor. I want you to do it in Raptor first. Raptor has the ability to work out the maximum and the minimum values. I'm not going to tell you how. You need to look at the help file for that. But it does have that ability. Java definitely has that ability, and that's a lot easier. But, yeah, that's what I want you to do. Any questions?
How do I do it?
Well, work it out yourself. Any questions? No?